Rev up your engines!
Well, one thing I find about the car manufacturers is they're kind of like sheep. They follow each other down the line. Now, Ford has a plan to get rid of door handles on a bunch of their cars. Look of no handles on your door where you'll have a gesture or your little keyless remote fob when you get close. It'll open the door for you. Numero uno. It costs a lot more money to build them these ways. And if it breaks, you're stuck out of your car. Why get rid of a door handle? Oh, it looks cooler. Oh, it's more aerodynamic. Yeah, you get 1/1 billionth of a mile per gallon better gas mileage from the less drag of a smooth door than a little door handle. That's that, right? Now I'll get caught up in this futuristic crap of, oh, let's make it look like future. No door handles. Yeah, I can see all the people getting stuck because they can't get in their car because it doesn't have a door handle anymore. They cost more to make, and when they break, they'll cost a fortune to repair. Of course, they love that. Then they can make money fixing the stupid thing. Sometimes people get too carried away. You always want something you can grab to get in. Imagine if our houses didn't have door handles and that was all electronic, then it was broke, then, you know, you can't get in your house, so you got to break a window to get in your house. Maybe people end up breaking the windows to get in their car because their handleless doors won't open. I just think it's another dumb thing that these engineers, they will because they can design something, but should they? Maybe not. A cash out says, Scotty, are Lincoln good cars? Well, you can't buy a Lincoln car anymore because they don't make them. They only make SUVs and stuff. The Lincolns themselves were pretty decent cars. A lot of people used them for cabs or fancy Uber Black. They were decent cars. They're gas hogs in town on the highway with their newer transmissions. Some of those things can get 27, 28 miles a gallon, which is something for a car that big. But of course, they don't make them anymore because Ford's getting out of the car business. But they were decent cars for their time, you know, if you took care of them. Oh, Scary says, what do you think of the GMC Yukon? I'm not a fan of GMC big, giant SUV things. They always have problems, transmissions or engines. Their quality has been going downhill for decades. They're to drive on a Chevy Impala with a 302 V8. I mean, that thing ran forever. It rusted out because it was in Niagara Falls, but the junk man bought it from my father, and he took the engine out and put it into this junkyard tow truck and used it for years and years. They used to make really good vehicles. Not as much anymore, and for the money that you're going to pay for one of those things, you know, you want a big vehicle like that, get a Toyota Sequoia. You know, it'll last 10 times as long and break down about 5 times less, or maybe 10 times or 20 times less. Yeah, seriously, Scotty, what do you think of a 2010 Lexus IS 350? Oh, they're excellent vehicles. I have people bring them to me to work on and check out all the time. As long as, now if you're talking about buying one, as long as the oil's been changed regularly, generally they're really good vehicles. But saw the video I made the other day, the guy brought me one he paid $9,500 or so for, and the engine was all worn out because the guy never changed the oil. The previous owner or owners, he bought it at a dealer, who knows how many original owners it had. But when I pulled out the spark plugs, they were all covered with caked burnt oil carbon, and it didn't run right. I got it running good, but I told him, I said, it's not going to last forever because the engine's an oil burner because he didn't take care of it. You have a mechanic check one out before you buy it. Don't just buy it naked, sight on scene. You never know. Could have been a flood. Could have been a wreck. A mechanic can tell that. Then you don't have to worry. Well, the Chevy Corvette, the new one, the mid-engine one, they're now plans of making a hybrid one. There was a detailed patent about their new dual-clutch transmission that they're going to put in it because it's going to have an electric motor and a gasoline motor. So it'll have an input for an electric motor to run it. So it'll have an electric motor, but it will also have different speeds instead of just being a one-speed electric motor that's relatively inefficient. But and this could be a gigantic but. This is being designed in conjunction with Tremec. This is the company that made the previous transmission for the mid-engine Corvette that has nothing but problems. They're sticking with the same company. It's the same company that made the one that's had a lot of problems with. They're going to make a hybrid version of that transmission that can do both the gasoline engine and an electric motor. They're adding more levels of technology to a company that's built one that just worked on gasoline engines that had problems. You start adding electric into the thing, I could see quite a few problems coming out from it. You can see how they screwed up the first design. Who's to say the second design is going to be right? Now, it's going to be a while before they actually build these things, so nobody will know until they're out. I'd love to try one out, but you never know until they've been out for years, like I always say. I wouldn't be the first one to buy one, I'll tell you that. Janeski says, I got a question about tire plugs. When you have a tire plug from a flat, are they safe to use for the long term? You know, there's all kinds of arguments raging about this. They say the only way to fix it is to take the tire off the rim, clean it where the hole is, put on a patch on the inside, put it back together, balance the tire. Of course, that costs a lot of money. It's a big hassle. The plugs, you plug them in, cut the excess, and drive. Of course, all these companies now, they're worried about litigation being sued, and they said, oh, you shouldn't do that. Temporary, then get it fixed, blah, blah, blah. I've been putting tire plugs in tires since I was 15 years old at my father's gas station. We have plugged tires there, hundreds of them, and I've done it the rest of my life. And the ones that I personally did, I got pretty good at it. I never had one come back. They work quite well. And a hilarious story that goes with this is one of the salesmen that came to my father's corner Texaco gas station. He sold different things, including the plugs. He had like 50 of the plugs put in the tire that he was driving on a station wagon, and he delivered stuff with his sales station. And they held perfectly fine, but for a lark, we let the air out of the tire one time when he was having coffee with my father. Then we admitted, yeah, we let the air out. Technically, you're supposed to patch them on the inside, but like I say, I've driven cars myself that I patched, my own personal cars, 40, 50,000 miles more. Now, the only thing about flat tires is this, though. Once you get the flat, you fix it, look at the tire. If your tire's getting all worn and thin, it's time to get a new tire. Often you get flats because the tread is so thin that nails and stuff go through. When they're thick, they bounce off. When they're thin, they can pop through. Pretty good tire with a lot of tread, not cracked, and you get a nail, go ahead and plug it. But if it's getting bald and worn out, you can plug it for now, but then you don't take it apart and fix the inside. You buy another tire instead. That's the more logical thing to do. John says, the other day, the weather was in the teens. Warmed up the car and I got to work. I said the tires looked low, so I parked it, and the next day I filled them up with the correct air pressure. How long does it take them to get low pressure? It all has to do with temperature. The lower the temperature, the lower pressure of your tire. If you got like 30 psi and it's 80 when it gets down to 15. So what you got to do is when it's cold outside, you got to check that pressure and fill it up. Now, of course, if it warms up again, then you might have too much pressure. You have to let a little bit out. But normally you don't live in a place that one day it's 15 degrees and the next day it's 85, 90. It takes a lot of temperature to make many psi difference. But they look low and you filled them up. When you did, were they all about the same low? And if they were, that's purely temperature. Now, if some were and some weren't, it means that the ones that were even lower than the other ones have some kind of leak you want to fix. They all go down exactly the same. And when you get a wild temperature change, you want to check them when it's cold. And then when it gets hot again, if it gets hot real fast, then you want to recheck them because it might have too much pressure. But it's got to be a lot of degrees difference. So don't worry that, oh, gee, today it's 40 and tomorrow it's 20. It's going to make all that much difference now. Big temperature change will make for big pressure change. Well, I'm totally shocked. The United States government now is accepting that they can make the adaptive headlights so they don't blind people while you're driving around. If you've been following the news, they had in Europe for a long time, but they were technically illegal in the United States. They made a generic law that said, well, maybe they can do that, but it could take years to decide it. Hey, instead of taking years, it only took them months. I'm shocked. The U.S. highway safety regulators are now going to allow them to make the adaptive headlights. Well, they do say it's going to be allowed in the next few days when they get this thing done and written. So it isn't actually done yet, but in a few days. Instead of taking years, they only took months. It shocks the heck out of me that the government does something that fast. Normally they take decades to get anything done. Well, really, I guess the pressure was on them, you know. It's a safety thing. Why the heck wouldn't you want to do it? It only makes sense that you'd want to do it. They've actually said you can do that now instead of stopping it. Now, of course, this increases the price of the cars quite a bit because the adaptive headlights are run by computers. So then the headlights have to be able to move around. BMW and Mercedes and stuff have had European versions for years, and they are expensive. So I suppose in the future it's going to be a stock on cars. They'll say you have to, just like you have to have certain safety features, like anti-lock brakes. Now it's going to be, oh, you're going to have adaptive headlights too, and it'll make the price of the cars go up that much. Amazingly enough, the government did something quickly instead of taking forever. I may die of a heart attack any second. Alan, he says, what is your cell phone preference? What brand do you use for car repair, camera, and personal use? I use Google Pixel. For ages, I use Samsung's. I like the Samsungs. Then they said, we've now got great camera and video, blah, 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 right? That was the last one that I'll ever buy because the camera video on it stunk. And the selfie one that I would use for filming was terrible. And then I kept contacting the company, said, well, there's nothing you can do. That's not a software. That's a hardware thing. And that's the way it is. You can't make it any better, right? So I got a Google 4A 5G and it blew me away. One, the talk to text is better than any of them. When I do my live car talks, I use it to film the live car talks. I like making good videos. So I don't use a phone to make my videos. I've been using this Panasonic for ages. This one's an HD VX981 4K. You can get it for like $900 now. They used to cost more. Leica lens. I mean, it's a phenomenal camera. Google Pixel, they're phenomenal. It's got that night vision stuff and it takes phenomenal pictures. I used to use a Canon, regular old camera, right? I gave up with that a long time ago. I would not use it to making my videos because now it's got the processing and stuff. But all you got is that little tiny lens, you know? It's got 3 lenses, of course, but the little lenses, and they're all tiny, only does so much. You got a big lens like the Leica on my Panasonic, you're going to get a lot better light collecting. It works much better under low light conditions of filming video, and it's got Dolby 5.0 sound, and I also stick a shotgun mic with a dead cat on it. If you're curious, it's a Rode, R-O-D-E. The Rodes are really good. You can't get the same quality shooting it on a phone if you're going to put up 4K videos on YouTube like I do. For all the other uses and taking pictures, I like the Google stuff. And the software beats them all. When I'm answering all your emails and stuff, I can just talk, and it types it up pretty good. So that's what I use. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.